So here we are to press on toward that mark for that prize of that higher calling, that higher expectation, as you said, living life on purpose. This is what we are here to do, no matter what age, no matter what circumstance, situation, health challenges, we are still pressing on, moving on, being and doing the best that we can through the strength and the power of God. To God be the glory. Thank you for having us. Bless the Lord every time to share God's heartbeat that we know is what He put in us.
Yes.
And so we are so blessed and we are so privileged and we are so honored. And we want you to take these rhythms with you. Hallelujah. Let them live on, being passed on from generation to generation. And so to God be the glory. Thank you again. Thank you.
Good morning. It is so good to see so many of you out at our community conversation on Alzheimer's in communities of color, a time to remember. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Can we please give our drummers another round of applause? They have opened us up, and we are more than ready to begin a time to remember, a community conversation on Alzheimer's in communities of color. Good morning again. I am Dr. Stacy Brown, and I am a member of the Health and Wellness Ministry here at Girl Heights Presbyterian Church. And we're so happy once again to see so many of you. I think we all are mic'd all up, and so you can hear all of us. Please just give me, should I put it? Okay. I'll leave them like that. We are going to open up in prayer, and I am going to ask, I've been told that the 15th Street minister is here, and I'm going to ask if she would please open us up in prayer. Thank you so much.
Greetings to all. Can we just give God praise right now? Let's pray together. Father, we do thank you and we do praise you for this day. This is the day that the Lord hath made. We shall rejoice and be glad in it. Father, we thank you, Lord God, for bringing the pieces together, Lord God, for us, Lord God, to learn, Lord God, and to love and to laugh, Lord God. Father, we pray now, Lord God, over, Father, this opportunity that you've given us, Lord God, to come, Lord God, reason together, to love together, Lord God, to speak together, Lord God, to be, Lord God, the whole thumagon on one accord, God. And so, Father, right now, Lord God, lay your power over us, and Lord God, cause us, Lord God, to be one. For the word of God says, behold, O Israel, the Lord our God is one. And so, Father, we thank you and praise you. We give you honor, we give you glory, for it is in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Thank you so much. You know, when you're in the house of the Lord, you just step right in when the time is needed. So we're thankful. Thank you so much. At this time, We would like to announce just one of our church announcements. Our Rural Heights Presbyterian Church Women's Day will be on next Sunday at 10:30. We want to extend an invitation to each one of you to please come back and join us for that particular event. We would also like to thank our pastors and their members for their partnerships of recruitment and unification for kingdom building, for better health that helped make this program a success. I will acknowledge you at this time and feel free if you're representing these churches to stand. Greater Bethel AME, Greater Salem Church, New Creation Baptist Church, Church on the Grove, 15th Street Church of God, and of course, Rural Heights Presbyterian Church. So let's give them a round of applause for this. We would also at this time like to acknowledge our sponsors for this event. We would not be here today if it was not for them. That would be Biogen. We have representatives, if you could just raise your hand, they're probably outside working, but Biogen is one of the sponsors, and then the Hill Collaborative is the other sponsor. I see Ms. Gabrielle at the back coming in, and then Shayla, yes. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Amen. I have been charged with sharing why we are here, and this is for part one. As you know, there are two parts to this particular workshop. So if you would bear with me, I have a paragraph to read that tells you our why we are here. Alzheimer's disease is the most common form of dementia. More than 4 million Americans have AD. The disease is characterized by memory loss, language deterioration, poor judgment, and indifferent attitude. Dementia is a brain disorder that seriously affects a person's ability to carry out daily activities. It involves the parts of the brain that control thought, memory, and language. Healthy brain tissue dies or deteriorates, causing a steady decline in memory and mental abilities. The goals of part one of this education program are to help you understand Alzheimer's and dementia and recognize the signs and symptoms to promote early diagnosis, build a therapeutic alliance between physician and caregiver as an essential element in successfully managing their loved one living with AD, learn to understand and apply techniques to reduce behavioral disturbances in a compassionate way, promote independence, activity, and socialization to limit the need for pharmacologic management, and learn about available training programs and social support resources for caregivers. So that was a lot, but we are here today to really learn as much as we can about this illness so that we can remain healthy and definitely help our loved ones to remain healthy. Amen. At this time, I would like to introduce, before I get to that, in front of you we have a folder, and inside of that folder you have a pre-event survey and you have a post-event survey. I would like to ask if you would, during these next few minutes, to please complete your pre-survey, and then after we have all been educated about Alzheimer's and dementia, that you would complete your post-survey. Before we ask Mr. Stan Watson, Hill Collaborative National Director for Faith-Based Initiatives, to come up, I see that our interim minister, Pastor Reverend Tuggle, has arrived, and I would like to ask him to bring him in.
Thank you, Dr. Brown. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. It's a pleasure to have all of you here at Rural Heights Presbyterian Church. We are honored to have you on our campus, and it's a joy to see you all here. This event is very important to all of us, and particularly to me. Both of my parents have passed away in the last year and a half because of Alzheimer's and dementia, and I know the extraordinary requirement and dedication involved in being a caregiver, because we were taking care of both of them before they went on to glory. And so we know that if you are involved in caring for a loving parent, or even a child or relative or friend, It takes extraordinary patience, amen? Love and dedication. But also, this particular disease is affecting millions of people. And as our country continues to age, it will impact more and more of us as time goes along. We at Your Heights Presbyterian Church, we have a special emphasis on health ministry. And for the past many years, we've had numerous community outreach initiatives involved in health, and that's whether diet or stress or mental, physical health, spiritual health. And so our church gives a lot of energy and time on focusing on health. And the great health giver is our Lord Jesus Christ. Amen. And he taught us how to live healthily. In fact, my sermon tomorrow is part 2 of a sermon I'm doing on healthy living. So thank you for coming. It is a joy to welcome you to the Your Heights Presbyterian Church. I know you're going to have a wonderful, fruitful, and substantive day. Amen. Thank you. God bless you.
Thank you, Reverend Tuggle. So at this time, we would like to introduce Mr. Stan Watson, and he will take the podium. He's from the HEAL Collaborative. He's the National Director of Faith-Based Initiatives. If we could please give him a round of applause.
Good morning. Good morning. Well, you guys do a little bit better than that. The drum woke us up. A little bit better than that. I'm so glad that Dr. Brown and the Pastor Tuggle was before me. I was talking to Dr. Tustin, and he said, how are you going to follow those drums? I have no idea what I was going to do. So we're going to do the best that we can to move forward. I am Stan Watson, National Director for Policy and Faith Initiatives for the HEAL Collaborative. And we want to thank you and the church for allowing us and our sponsor Biogen for coming before you today and joining us this morning for this interactive discussion about Alzheimer and dementia. We have featured some great medical experts, some caregivers, some navigators, to give us the information that we need as we assemble our community, the village, to talk about Alzheimer and dementia. We have, in our community for a long time, been afraid of Alzheimer and dementia as African American. In our community, just so not long ago, we called it in our family touch. We call it special. In my days coming up, the church used to say that, he woke me up this morning, but I was clothed in my right mind. If that makes sense. And as I've gotten older, we understand clothed in your right mind, what it really means. Because sometimes you can get up in the morning and put your shoes on top of your head. That's not clothed in your right mind. So we're here to make sure that we talk about dementia and Alzheimer's and how God can lift up a bowed down head if we have information, and how your church as a health ministry can make sure that we feature the whole man or the whole woman in what we do. My job today is a simple one, to make this a breakfast meeting and not a fall festival in the evening. And so I'll be moving the program along as we go, and we want to make sure that we have a great time, take the information. And I think the lady said something about Ephesians earlier today. I'd like to say a little bit about Paul. Paul said that in order for us to be great Christians or great liberal people in the street, that we have to not only be hearers of the word, but you have to be doers of the word as well. So don't hear this word and don't take it to your community or use it in your homes or use it in the next church or fellowship with each other. You got to be doers of the word. When we say do it, that means it's an action word. And so we got to make sure that we do it. So one of the things we're going to do today, well, first we'll start with our first panel. And our first panel will have a great panel that will be led by our moderator, Dr. Stacy Brown. And as she presents the panel and introduces the panel, and after the panel, Dr. Rose, and I think it's Steve, yes, to come up, Dr. Martin, excuse me, Patrick Martin to come up, so we get started. I'll give them a hand as they come. They're like a little slow this morning. And I need my microphone for them as well. And for my moderator, Dr. Brown, we need to get your mic as well. You got to have one? Okay, I need two for my panelists. Once we get the mic, Dr. Brown will turn it over to you and let them introduce themselves. We'll come back. If there are any questions from downstairs, we'll ask them to come up to the mic that's stationed, and we'll go from there. And otherwise, we'll have to take a mic in the audience, and we'll make sure we take care of the people here. All right? Dr. Brown is yours.
All right. Thank you so much to Dr. Rose and Dr. Martin for being here today. I'm going to give you the opportunity to introduce yourselves and tell all of these wonderful guests what your expertise is.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Very nice to be here. It's such a pleasure. I would like to actually thank first. Can you hear me? Maybe I just need to say wonderful. I'd like to thank Career Heights Presbyterian Church and feel collaborative for this opportunity to be here and share with you. And I'm excited about the discussion that we'll be having later on. I'm Deborah Rose. I am a neurology resident physician at Duke up in Durham. And this is a topic that is very near and dear to my heart. It has impacted my own family. Several members of my family have either passed away or are currently living with dementia or Alzheimer's disease. And so I'll be giving a little bit of a talk later on, so we'll dig more into that.
Good morning, and once again, switch it over to
1 minute. Can you give me a test
test.
again?
Test. Okay. Well, good morning. I'm Patrick Martin, and once again, I'd like to echo the comments and thank Career Heights Presbyterian Church for the invitation to speak to you today at this very well coordinated and hopefully informational event. I currently serve as the Dean for the College of Science, Technology, Engineering, and Mathematics at Johnson C. Smith University. Prior to that, I was at North Carolina A&T, where we established a Center for Outreach in Alzheimer's, Aging, and Community Health, and I served as the director of that for about 2 years before taking a position here at Johnson C. Smith University. I remember I call her my auntie, but she was actually my great aunt, who passed away from complications to dementia. This was in the late 90s, so Alzheimer's was just being coined about that time. And we don't know if it was Alzheimer's, but it was definitely dementia. So as we know, we are rich people with history, and with that history comes challenges, but also opportunities. And I'm glad that the health ministry here at Career Heights Presbyterian Church is addressing this.
Thank you so much. So we are now going to go back to Dr. Rose, and I think you have a presentation for us. And so we ask that our media team please present her slide presentation. So if you could show Dr. Rose's slideshow presentation.
Thank you so much. All right, so again, it is a pleasure to be here. I have a few slides prepared for us, and then we'll have a discussion to go through any questions that you all may have. I'm going to focus on giving an overview of Alzheimer's disease and dementia, and then I'm going to focus a bit more on the racial disparities that exist in this condition, and how we can really empower our communities to tackle this public health crisis and work on ways to optimize our brain health. Next slide. So I want to talk first about the inspiration, where my inspiration for this work has come from. This is a picture of my family, specifically 9 of my great aunts and uncles and my grandmother in the bottom left. They were all born and raised in a very rural part of Jamaica, Mandeville, and they all grew up without indoor plumbing, no electricity, no telephone, reliable transportation. So it was a very different time and very different type of upbringing for them. My grandmother, unfortunately, was diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease about 4 years ago, and she passed away a couple years after that. And so we have everyone in our family, we're very close-knit. My 9 great aunts and uncles are like honorary grandparents to me and my siblings, because they all helped raise my grandmother. We all helped care for my grandmother when she had Alzheimer's disease. And then years subsequent to that, unfortunately, several of them were diagnosed with dementia due to Alzheimer's disease or vascular dementia, which we'll get into a little bit more. Unfortunately, a couple have passed away since this photo was taken, a couple more, and then a couple others are still living with the disease. So this is a condition that impacts the individual and loved ones in ways that other diseases do not. So Alzheimer's can really strip an individual of their autonomy, their independence, their memory. Our memories make us who we are. So this is a particularly devastating disease that I'm glad we're talking about today. Next slide. So let's take a step back and talk about what dementia even is. Dementia is an umbrella term that describes difficulty with memory, thinking, and decision-making that may interfere with one's day-to-day functioning. And so when I mention activities of daily living, I'm talking about those things that we do on a regular basis that we don't think about, that's kind of become routine. So bathing, dressing, cooking, cleaning, all of those things are just part of our routine, but they can become difficult for an individual who's starting to show signs of dementia. Dementia is also a decline in behavior, emotions, and the relationships with other individuals. And it can be caused by multiple conditions, the most common of which is Alzheimer's disease, which is what we'll focus on for the rest of this talk. But then the second most common cause of dementia is what's called vascular dementia, meaning that conditions such as high blood pressure, high cholesterol, diabetes, smoking, heart disease, all of those things, especially if they're uncontrolled and not being managed regularly by a doctor, can really impact one's cognitive health over time. Next slide. So Alzheimer's disease, again, is the most common cause of dementia, and worldwide it impacts more than 55 million individuals. This number, however, though, is very underreported because not everyone has access to a clinician to even obtain this diagnosis. And in the US, about more than 6.5 million individuals are living with this disease. By 2050, experts are projecting that the number is going to rise even more to about 14 million. Next slide. So I wanted to briefly touch on the biology of Alzheimer's disease because that's relevant when we discuss the therapies that companies like Biogen and other pharmaceutical groups are working on developing right now. On the left is a normal, healthy brain. Below that, we're zooming into the brain cells, which are neurons. There are billions of neurons in our brain, and they have trillions of connections. On the right, we're looking at a brain that has been impacted by Alzheimer's disease. So it's shrunken. You can see that the spaces in between the folds of the brain have also become widened. And below that, we're zooming in again on the brain cells that are impacted by 2 specific proteins that make up the hallmark features of this disease. One is called amyloid, which some of you may have heard of, because that's a protein that a lot of these drugs that are being developed now are targeting. So amyloid, when it clumps together, forms these plaques. There's another protein called tau, T-A-U. They clump together, they form tangles. So these plaques and tangles, when they clump together, they can impair connections between neurons and over time lead to the symptomatology that we're seeing in the condition, which is memory, loss, and other cognitive changes. Next slide. So what are the risk factors for Alzheimer's disease? How do we get it? What increases the chance that we may be afflicted? So age, unfortunately, is the biggest risk factor. There's nothing we can do about growing older. It's not modifiable. But there are other things that we can do. Having a history of low or poor quality educational attainment is also non-modifiable. But head injury, so avoiding things like aggressive sports and such, that increases risk for Alzheimer's disease, especially traumatic brain injuries. Depression, cardiovascular disease, so going back to the high blood pressure, high cholesterol, diabetes, that's a big bucket because there's a big connection between heart and brain health. Social isolation, and stress and environmental factors, which I wish we talked about more in the medical space, but by environmental factors, I'm referring to exposure to things like air pollution, neurotoxins such as lead, and stress has actually been shown to have an association with poor cognitive outcomes. So having a history of significant childhood or midlife psychological stress can impact later life cognitive health. Next slide. Which populations are at highest risk? Racial and ethnic minoritized groups, including African Americans and Latinos, are more likely to develop Alzheimer's disease compared to non-Latino whites. African Americans are twice more likely, and Latinos are 1.5 times more likely. And I'm going to go into some of the reasons why this is on the next slide. There are also gender disparities in this disease. Women are more likely than men to develop the condition. There are a lot of hypotheses as to why this is the case. Age is one of the biggest ones that we jump to because statistically speaking, women live longer than men. And we know age is the biggest risk factor for the condition. But researchers are looking into other things like hormonal changes. What role does estrogen? We know historically that women have been more exposed to certain types of stressors that are actually more associated with poor cognitive health later. So there's a lot of work surrounding this and trying to understand the gender disparities as well. Next slide. Now, why are there racial disparities in Alzheimer's disease? There are many different hypotheses for this as well. But one of them, so these are kind of the primary buckets that we discuss in this space, but one of them is socioeconomic status. So that refers to level of household income or level and quality of educational attainment early on in life. We know that our communities have a disproportionate prevalence of socioeconomic disadvantage, which we know in this research is associated with poor cognitive health later in life. Cardiovascular diseases as well. Our communities are disproportionately impacted by heart disease, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, and all of those things we know are associated with Alzheimer's disease, unfortunately. Structural factors is a huge bucket here, and I would argue leads to the other things. And I wish we talked about this more as well in the medical space. Historically, our government has distinctly placed our communities at a disadvantage and favored other populations. And so we have to talk about things like systemic racism and the impact that has and has had on our overall health, especially our brain health. And the trickle-down effect that we are experiencing from that is seen today. And finally, early life adversity and childhood trauma. That's a particular interest of mine in my research. We know that there are certain types of stressors that disproportionately impact Black and brown communities that don't that don't really touch non-Latino white communities, such as racial discrimination, deportation, all of those things. So all of these factors play a role in the racial disparities we see in Alzheimer's disease. But I wish there was more of a conversation that we were having about it. I think that we're doing much better now. Next slide. So we'll switch gears a little bit and talk about some of the warning signs of dementia. Some of you here may have a loved one that you're concerned may be starting to show some of these warning signs. And so I just wanted to touch on them and then talk about what we can do to try to move towards early detection and interfacing with a clinician. So memory loss that disrupts daily life is one of the first things that we'll think about. Memory loss is one domain of cognition. There are other areas of cognition that can be impacted, but memory loss that impairs an individual's ability to fulfill their activities of daily living, cooking, bathing, dressing, cleaning, right, all of those things, that's a warning sign. Challenges in planning or solving problems, difficulty with completing familiar everyday tasks. So that includes those examples I mentioned, but also things that are familiar for the individual. So if they have been driving a certain route to work or from home for years, or they would cook a recipe every year at Thanksgiving or Christmas and they're starting to forget how to do those things, that's a warning sign and something that needs to be checked out. Decreased or poor judgment, especially when it comes to things like finances or hygiene, that's pretty common and that is a warning sign. My grandmother, for example, one of the earliest signs that our family saw for her was that she was a bit too generous with her money. Unfortunately, some of her neighbors would take advantage of her memory loss. She would write checks for people. She'd forget that she'd write checks for them. They'd come back and she would give them more. My great aunts and uncles, they noticed this a bit late, but they said we need to take her and we need to care for her. So that's another warning sign. And withdrawal from work or social activities is something else to keep an eye out for. I think that as we grow older, we naturally don't want to do as much social activity as we used to do when we were younger, but things like no longer wanting to engage with family members or go to social functions, and the reason why that happens is because the individual may not be able to follow conversations with others. That's something to keep an eye out for and they need to be evaluated. Next slide. And changes in mood and personality, especially if it is significantly out of proportion to the individual's character. Next slide. So the reason why it's so important for us to recognize these signs is because the very first step that you want to take before bringing that individual to get evaluated is approaching them. And I think that is the most difficult step for a lot of us and for a lot of our families, especially in our community. But it is the most important one. And I think one of the things that we can do to try to work towards that perhaps is brainstorming with other family members or other friends, loved ones, to the individual so that there can be a discussion about the best way to approach it that would be most comfortable and best for the loved one you're concerned about. Seeing a clinician is critical so that they can do an evaluation that is very personalized and focused on your loved one's specific circumstances. So they may go ahead and so taking a thorough history is important, and make sure to go with your loved one to the appointment. Don't send them alone. One of the features of dementia is that the individual will lack insight. So if they show up alone and the doctor asks them, why are you here? They may say, I don't know, my daughter wanted me to come. I don't think anything is wrong. That's not going to be helpful for the doctor to help your loved one. And then finally, some of the benefits of early detection include getting started on treatment early. The treatments that we have right now for Alzheimer's disease, we have kind of two categories, and the newer drugs that have come out in the last couple of years, and then the older ones that have been around for about 20 plus years. And those are more commonly prescribed because they're not as expensive, but they don't cure the disease. They help to preserve cognitive, the current degree of cognition, but they don't significantly alter the course of dementia. Another benefit of early detection is advanced care planning, so families can get together and talk about things such as perhaps placing the individual in a facility or keeping them at home, whatever works best for the family. And then talking about participation in clinical trials, especially if this is early onset dementia. I wanted to finish very briefly, on talking about some of the things that we can do to empower ourselves to optimize our brain health and preserve our cognition for as much as possible. So these are things that your primary care provider is going to be telling you. The same thing the neurologist will tell you is what the primary care doctor will tell you. So sleep, exercise, and rigorous exercise, 150 minutes a week, is really the best way that you can try to improve your cognition over time. Things such as also optimizing your diet, antioxidants, anti-inflammatory things, omega-3 fatty acids, vegetables, beans, all of that. And then cognitive stimulation is also critical. So really trying to engage in something that you're excited about, that allows you to interact with other individuals too. That is also, that's been shown to improve cognitive health later on in life. So I'll stop there. Sorry, I think I went over a little bit, but thanks so much for listening.
Thank you so much, Dr. Rose. At this time, we are going to transition to Dr. Martin, who also has a presentation, and then following his presentation, we will ask some questions, and then we will open it up to the audience.
Okay. Okay, well, I'd like to thank Dr. Rose for giving a great lead-in to what I'm going to discuss here briefly. But we're looking at caregiver support. And for the Center of Outreach into Alzheimer's and Aging and Community Health, we really focused on caregivers. And at that point in time, what can we do for caregivers to make sure that they are healthy, they're living a stress-free life, so they can give better care to whomever they're giving care to. Again, I'm Patrick Martin, and I'm coming from Johnson C. Smith University. We go to the next slide. So if we look at this, we're looking at caregiving 101, and we're going to talk about the who, the what, the why, factors that will help support the caregiver, and what are some of the new research saying that will help support caregivers in the entire family unit that's giving care. Next slide, please. Okay, who are they? Well, when we look at caregivers, we're looking at the majority of persons with dementia are still in a community dwelling. Basically what that is saying, they're still in the home. They haven't been processed into a special facility to care for dementia or Alzheimer's. The majority of these, again, well over 60% are cared for by a family member or a spouse at this point in time. One of the biggest things that we have noticed is the amount of income or the cost of treatment or care now for individuals with Alzheimer's. We believe there are about 11 million Americans, and again, this is probably underreported, who are serving as caregivers for the tune of about $340 billion of care in this time of work. In addition to this, typically the caregiver is a spouse or a family member, and usually, typically, there are 2/3 or 66% of these caregivers are women. And if you look at this, most of the caregivers for a person with Alzheimer's are over the age of 65. So why do they care? And especially here in the African American community, why do caregivers, why do they do what they do? Well, a lot of it has cultural. I remember growing up, you don't put your family into a home, right? You keep them at home, you care for them, and if you can't bring in the appropriate nurses, you find a way. The family or the church family or really the neighborhood takes care of them. So that's one of the things that why people care. And maybe a financial cost. Maybe the finances aren't there. Dr. Rose talked about this, aging planning, aging financial planning. How do we care for this? The cost of care, the cost of a CNA or someone to come in can be astronomical if you don't have that prepaid or taken care of through insurance. Social pressure, we talked about that. In our community, you don't send your parents, your grandparents away, you keep them at home. In addition to that, they really care because at times they think they give the best care. And to bring someone in external, they're not going to take care of your loved one the way that you would take care of them. Next slide, please. You can keep going. So the consequences of caregiving, we're looking at financial. Maybe the caregiver has to actually take early retirement and use some of their retirement savings to stay home and take care of the patient with Alzheimer's or dementia. Reduced income. Again, if you're taking early retirement, you're reducing your income, and maybe there's a lack of insurance. It's one of the biggest things that we used to have workshops on. We would bring in long-term care insurance and long-term care planning to speak with our caregivers and our families so that you can begin to purchase the insurance, pay for the insurance, so it can help offset some of the cost of caregiving for a person with Alzheimer's or dementia. If you go down, it's another bullet point. Physical. A close to 75% or 3/4 of caregivers reported concerns about their own health, both physical, social, and emotional health. The total of caregiving can be immense on the family or the family unit or whomever's giving the care. This is one of the biggest things that we tended to focus on. How do we give an outlet to caregivers? There are some things, and I think Dr. Rose mentioned to this, the structural impacts of this. Is there something that we can do as a family? Is there something we can do as a community or church community to provide some comfort for the caregivers, some lessening of the stress for the caregivers? If you go down, there's another bullet point. And then the life quality. When you look at studies of caregivers, some of the things that Dr. Rose mentioned that we should avoid, high blood pressure, increased stress levels, lack of sleep. Caregivers fall directly into those negative categories, which now will challenge them as it comes to Alzheimer's and dementia. And what we also have begun to learn from a lot of genetic studies is that Alzheimer's and dementia-related issues are typically genetic. They're in the family. So if a family member is caring for someone with Alzheimer's or dementia, and now their life quality begins to decrease because of this, they're making themselves more likely to fall into a cycle in which they will now have Alzheimer's and dementia. Next slide, please. So when we talk about factors impacting caregiving, we look at the physiological, behavioral symptoms of the person with dementia. A lot of times, the person with dementia you're caregiving for, their personalities have changed. They are not the person that you remember. They are still that person, but their traits have significantly changed. As we get into the disease, as it progresses, they may not recognize you. The outburst towards you can be negative and make you feel as if you're not doing what you should be doing, or you're not doing it correct as a caregiver. Coexisting, helping the patient as well as the caregiver coexist with medical treatments. The amount of keeping up with prescriptions, how they're being delivered to both the patient and the caregiver can be very stressful at times. Relationships have changed. If this is a spouse, instead of being 50-50 in a relationship, it's now 80-20. The caregiver is doing a lot for the spouse. And we see this a lot when children have to now become the parents. And they have to take, I think Dr. Rose mentioned this, you have to begin to exert financial control, emotional control, social control. You have to change the affect of the house, the structure of the house. And this is what your parents' house. They worked hard to provide this for you and your family, and now you have to change this. In addition to some of the relationships that change, the relationship between the patient with Alzheimer's and dementia with their social group. They now may become, I don't want to say ostracized or cast out, but they're no longer in those relationships, and now that relationship falls into the caregiver and the caregiver circle. The next slide, please. And if we look at the impact of dementia caregiving for the well-being of everyone that's involved, studies suggest that caregivers who actually find meaning in why they were placed here to be a caregiver actually deal with it better than those caregivers who walk into it with a negative connotation to it, that why has this happened to me? What could I have done to prevent this? It was someone on our call on Thursday night from Biogen, I believe, Siva, who will be here next week to talk to you about Biogen. And she mentioned the fact that she has a special needs child that they will always be cared for. And she's had to care for parents with Alzheimer's and or dementia. And she felt that she was placed here by God to be a caregiver. And she took meaning from that. So we have to begin build these networks for caregivers so they can find meaning in the care that they give. And that can actually help support caregivers to be better caregivers and a better outcome for the caregiver. Next slide, please. So how can we help caregivers? There have been hundreds of studies looking into this. And some of the best things we can do with caregivers is, one, provide professional support. We didn't come onto this earth to be professional caregivers. There are nurses, there are nurses' aides, there are physicians, there are physical therapists who have been trained to do that. When you take on caregiving, most of us have never been trained to do that. We do the best that we can do. So offering professional support. Behavior management. How can we manage the behavior of the patient as well as how we respond to that? A lot of emotional and social support. Counseling, which aligns with professional support. Self-care, and this is what we did a lot at the Coach Center. Self-care. Twice a week we would have a 2-hour session in which we would have the caregiver and the patient come in, or the group of caregivers. The patient would be in a room with other patients, and we would make sure we had professional support for them, while the caregivers could have a meal and a workout. Just to give them 2, if they could make it twice a week, 4 hours a week, away from having to provide that 24/7 care. I think things that we reached out to PACE communities to establish overnight nursing care. So maybe a couple times a week you could get low-cost nursing care so the caregiver could get a good night's rest. Other things that building support groups, beginning to talk about environmental design. At the Coach Center, this is something we would like to do at Johnson C. Smith. We actually built a mini apartment and how you could construct it or design the environment for the patient with Alzheimer's to really help them throughout the kitchen as well as in the bathroom. And then what are some of the outcomes? When we did post surveys, we noticed our caregivers who participated in these educational events and these outreach events felt better about themselves and felt better about the care, thus lowering their stress that they've had, hopefully putting them in a better position to be caregivers. And at this point in time, my talk concludes, and I have one more slide. And this is from the 2013 World Alzheimer's report. And it basically states that caregivers all have to care in the way that they feel is best for them and the person they're giving care. There's no one-size-fits-all for this, but we can come together as a community, as a church community, and help each other out. Thank you.
Dr. Brown, we have 2 questions for the panel, and then we'll open up for questions from the floor. And also I need for us to prepare for any questions from the chat. So if you have any questions for the television audience that's on social media, get those questions to us as well. Dr. Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Stan. And our panelists have done an excellent job of answering the majority of the questions that are on my sheet here. So I will try to ask one that may give us just a little more in-depth regarding, is there a test or screening that can be done early in life to determine if you'll get Alzheimer's?
That's a great question. So we do have blood tests that can actually identify a couple of those proteins that I had mentioned, amyloid and tau. The blood tests are actually, they're a bit newer, and they haven't yet been released to the public. They're used now for research purposes. I think there's fear ethically about how things will be interpreted and, rising public panic about it. But in terms of what we do currently in the clinical space, there's no one perfect test right now. We do have, so just the traditional things, taking a good history, because that's going to be diagnosing, ultimately it's going to be used to diagnose dementia, but then also taking a look at the brain, getting an MRI that tells us a lot more detail of the brain. And then there are tests that can actually look at the spinal fluid. We don't always jump to that, but if there's lack of clarity about the diagnosis based on imaging and the history, we can look at the spinal fluid to look for those proteins.
Thank you so much. And then, in terms of caregiving, I know that you said the average age for a caregiver is 65. Do you offer any support for like intergenerational, because we know that it impacts the whole family that you share? Do you have support for the entire family?
Yeah, so typically when you look at caregivers, you look at the typical age, which is 65 or plus, but if you have a multi-generational family, the best case scenario is to bring the entire family in. And how do you build a team approach to caregiving? So that if you can't afford to have external help come in, could you 2 days a week, the brother comes in, 2 days a week, a sister comes in, 2 days a week, a cousin or aunt comes in. So you're spreading the challenge that are faced by the caregivers, you're spreading it throughout the entire family, so you don't overburden or wear down one or two people in the family. We typically see that, especially if the spouse is still living and healthy, the spouse gets overburdened with caregiving to the spouse who has Alzheimer's or dementia. And we try to avoid that by building a team, multi-layer, multi-generational approach.
And now we would like to open it up to our audience. Do you have any questions for our panelists?
And Dr. Brown, I also want to make sure you open up to our online viewers as well. If you have a question, raise your hand. I think we have a mic in the back here. Yes, ma'am. You stand up here. This is a film. Thank you.
Good afternoon, family. My question is, could you be a little more specific in identifying the difference between Alzheimer's and dementia?
Yes, absolutely. So dementia is more of an umbrella term, and there are different types of dementia. So Alzheimer's disease, when we talk about types, we're also talking about really different biology, different proteins that contribute to those types. So Alzheimer's disease is the most common cause, and the types of proteins that we see in the brain and in the blood that contribute to that pathology is the amyloid and the tau protein. The other types of dementia, like vascular dementia, there's Lewy body, frontotemporal, many other different types. They have different proteins, essentially, that cause those conditions. Clinically, there are ways for us also to identify the different types, but really the main way that differentiates them is what we see in the brain after someone has passed away, or in their blood, or their spinal fluid.
Can you have one without the other?
That's a great question. You can, but it's actually not common to see that. It is way more common for there to be what we call co-pathology. So a lot more people have multiple types of these dementias. But clinically, when you're seeing the doctor, they're really going to diagnose you with one type. If you donate your brain, we've seen that people actually have multiple types of dementia.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll take 2 more questions, please.
I wanted to know, what are the newer drugs that...
Hold on one moment. She has the mic. Yes.
Good morning, everyone. My question has to do with chronic pain. I have chronic pain So it's not so much as not wanting to do things, but not able to do things. So I want to know how chronic pain impacts dementia or even Alzheimer's.
So chronic pain may be a different process that may not necessarily, the one way in which I can think that it may impact one's cognitive health is if you're taking a lot of medication for it, that can, so we call that polypharmacy. We know that that can cause changes in your cognition, although it's usually more like a temporary thing that can, in most cases, be reversible if a doctor is kind of pulling off unnecessary medications that get piled on. But chronic pain on its own, we don't really, there's no clear connection between that and memory health.
Thank you.
One more question.
I wanted to know what are the names of some of the newer drugs you said that's in existence now versus the older drugs?
Yeah, absolutely. So the older drugs, some of you may perhaps have heard of them. So Aricept or donepezil, which is the most commonly prescribed medication to try to treat some of the symptoms of Alzheimer's disease. And then there's the others you don't prescribe as much, but galantamine is another one, rivastigmine. The newer ones that have come out in the last couple of years, those are more actually antibodies that try to reduce the amount of amyloid protein that's in the blood and brain. So those are called lecanemab, donanemab. Those are all ending in mabs because it's a monoclonal antibody. But those are just a couple of examples.
Dr. Brown, do we have any online questions before we wrap up?
I've looked and we do not.
Do not, okay. Dr. Brown, you did a wonderful job moderating. Our panel, you did an excellent job as well. Would you give them a hand? Thank you, Dr. Brown. Thank you, Dr. Rose, and Patrick. Thank you so much, Dr. Margaret as well. We're going to move to our next panel as they come off. We're going to ask that our patient navigation care support panel is going to be moderated by Ms. Phyllis Barnett. She's a member of the Health and Wellness Ministry here at Greer Heights. And our panels will be Vanessa Falk, Alicia White Dean, Rosalind Q. Scott. And ask that they will take the stage as well. Y'all encourage them so they can keep moving there. Thank you very much. And it's on.
All right. Good morning. Thank you all again for joining us. It's not so great. So I think I'm supposed to just give a little brief bit of information about me. Phyllis Barnett, lifelong member of Greer Heights Presbyterian Church. I am actually caring for my mother in the home. I returned home, not home, I'm from Charlotte, returned to the home, family home, 4 years ago. And found out probably a year into being here that she was diagnosed with vascular dementia. It has been somewhat challenging, but for those that know me and know my mother, we have a lot of similarities. But the word says, honor thy father and thy mother, so that thy days may be longer. So I do that. My mother, for those who know her, is a little spicy. So I think that keeps her going. It keeps me going. One of my favorite phrases is, Father God. So we have lots of that during the day. And also, self-care is very important for me. As you said, you can't give something you don't have. So I have also 4 brothers, so I am blessed to be able to have a family that can support me as we go together and taking care of our mother. So just a brief little bit about me. I am welcoming Miss Vanessa Falk, Miss Benitra White Dean, and Miss Rosalind Pugh Scott. And they will be sharing information about them, their programs, organization, as we go into this panel. So thank you and welcome. Thank you. So if you will each, at any given time, give a little bit of information about you and Mr. Steve.
Oh, I picked this up first? That's not what I meant. Okay. Good morning. As she was saying, my name is Rosalind Q. Scott. I have currently been working with dementia families for almost 15 years. I have covered probably about 70 of the 100 counties here in North Carolina with direct support. I have worked with North Carolina's only dementia-specific program, Project Care. I was the first to be a part of starting that program in Eastern North Carolina back in 2009, I believe, covering 33 counties at that time, but now the program is, of course, over the entire state. I've also, you see Dr. Martin here, I've worked with North Carolina A&T coach program before he came on board. I was the public health specialist that helped administer that program that was also faith-based in reaching out to the African American church and educating about Alzheimer's as well. I also worked with Dementia Alliance, which is an organization that covers all 100 counties, providing support and services. And currently now I'm pivot, and just with the experience I've had, especially working with the older community, decided that I wanted to reach out to the younger generation, and I am now a health science educator for an early college to help increase the knowledge to the medical, personnel that's coming along. And so enjoy that so much, and I'm just so honored to be here today and to share that information. Thank you. Is this on or we pass it now?
Pass it. Pass it, please.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. And I think our mothers must be related because mine is spicy too. And I know Ashley Stevens will contact Kate. Oh, yeah. But my name is Benita White Dean, and my husband and I were the primary caregivers for my mother. She lived with an Alzheimer's diagnosis for almost 10 years. And so throughout that journey, again, spiciness, all that stuff. So, we did what we had to do because that was mama. And we took it in stride, we took care of her, we made the decision to age in place, and you talked about long-term care insurance, all that. So, started an organization where our primary focus is family caregivers. My husband is here. Love taking care of caregivers, Karen, that's for sure. So, again, we do what we have to do to love on the caregivers, and I am so honored to be here. Thank you for having me.
I'm Vanessa Paul. Good morning, everybody. I am the co-owner of Wisdom Senior Care. We are a home care agency that operates here in Charlotte, North Carolina. My background is actually in dialysis and healthcare, which is something that, as we know, also disproportionately affects our community. And one of the things that I learned during that healthcare journey was that when some of those patients would leave the facility, they would go home to no one. And a lot of them needed some additional assistance, and assistance is looked at differently than healthcare. And from a perspective of a healthcare provider, there's certain services that are paid for by Medicare insurance and things of that nature, but as mentioned, elder care and memory care services are not typically covered, and they're not typically paid for, and so some people do not know that they can receive these services. So that was something that was important to me when I moved here to Charlotte. I took a pivot in my career, stepped away from dialysis, and had the opportunity to open a home care agency here that has done a lot with working directly with our community. Also being supportive of the caregivers, that family caregiver, and taking some of the burden off of them has been a big focus of ours. Just because when you get to know the people that are caring for the people that they love and how much it takes from them, providing an outlet for them, providing assistance to them as well as the person in need of the services has just become a very big passion of mine. So I'm very blessed to be here, very excited to share some of our services as well as some of the resources that our community can tap into for assistance.
So at this time, we'll definitely, since you'll be sharing information about your services, organization, we can just start there. We can do the question and answers a little later, but if you want to go into more detail about the services, go ahead.
Yes, I have to start this time.
Yeah, that's good.
But again, I'm sorry.
Hold for a second. Will you hold your mic up and rotate it for me, please? See the light, is the light green?
I'm sorry, say again.
Is that light on it green?
Okay, so it's not on?
It's all.
Oh, now it's green.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, as I was mentioning before, I took a pivot in my career and now I am doing health science education. But with Dementia Alliance of North Carolina, as I mentioned before, we cover all 100 counties, support services around the family caregiver. Unfortunately, we were not set up to provide support services for the person with dementia, but those services included one-on-one consultation, support groups. We had 60 to 70 support groups throughout various counties here in North Carolina. We had a music and memory program that was personal for individuals at home. That program has been very successful. We only had it for a year, but it had grown tremendously while I was there. And basically what that is set up as, caregivers that are taking care of loved ones with the diagnosis, of course, could call and ask for a music and memory program. A person would reach out to them and ask them like what genre of music their loved one liked. There would be a kit that's included in that. And what would happen is the director of that program would either, I think she would do a Zoom or go out to the home and just ask about the different music, include the music, come back to the office, put it all on the M3P player, call up the family member, make sure that it was, appropriate for their loved one, and then they could have the whole kit. The music could be changed at any time of need be. We would help and assist with that. So, Dementia Alliance, what they offer is similar to Alzheimer's Association, but what makes the organization so unique is that the services are only for individuals that live here in the state. There is what we call respite funding that's available as well. I don't know how many of you are familiar with that, but it's a small pot of money that we provide for caregivers based on emergency type needs. There you have Project Care as well. That's also across the state of North Carolina that provides respite funding. You have the national, I think it's the Respite Coalition, I'm sorry, that has a small amount of funding as well. I would recommend, and I'm probably getting a little ahead of myself, I would recommend to caregivers to reach out to your local area agencies on aging first, because that's a good place to start to know what's available in your individual counties. I know sometimes with caregivers, what I have witnessed in my many years is like they don't know where to start. And sometimes they go to the doctors and the doctors don't know where to start. And so with Dementia Alliance, when we would get the calls, we get calls from the western part of the state as well as the eastern part of the state, not knowing what to do and where to start. So as a dementia navigator, our responsibility was to navigate them toward those local services to make sure that they get this support that they need in caring for their loved one. Okay?
Excuse me. And to piggyback off of what Rosalind said, one thing I would like to encourage, especially as a church community, be in contact with your local legislators and your local governing body communities, because they need to know that these services are needed. Aging in place is our primary focus as in aging at home. So we want individuals that have lived in their homes for 40, 50 years to be able to stay there. We want them to be able to have the care that they need as well, but as mentioned, that does come at a significant cost, and there are certain states that these services are paid for, but North Carolina is not one of them. So that is something that, when you have a community and you can have a voice, and we all should use our voices to bring notice, kind of just like we're doing today. Let's continue to do these kind of things to get each other together and bring focus to these needs in our community, because they are very important. And one of the things also about that you said about the specific music for the specific clients, I think that that's very important, because everyone is different and you really never know what will make a difference to someone, but finding something that works for them is really pivotal, is really impactful when you're navigating this kind of care. So I just want to encourage you all to, I'm sorry, I've completely lost that thought. I think for me, so the part of the reason that I'm here is because I actually care for someone that is associated with this church, and it's been a struggle for me to watch her deal with I don't want to call it a burden, because she wears it so proudly and she's so good at what she does. So it's a blessing to be able to go into her home and provide her with caregivers that she trusts, that are there, that are reliable, that have become a part of her family. And I think that as an agency, as I said, we have a home care agency. So that's what we're doing. We're providing reliability, we're providing compassion, we're providing respite for family members who are caring for their loved ones. And I think that that's something that we all really need.
That rest,
You're good. You're good?
Okay. Yeah, that respite piece is the key. That is the key. And piggybacking on respite, what the Frankie May Foundation does, I started a nonprofit organization to provide respite care for family caregivers. And that respite looks different for different people. And listening to the services at Johnson C. Smith, with the Frankie May Foundation, we gather at a local church, and we have our caregivers once a month to come. We have a catered lunch, and I'm not a sandwich and chips type girl. Like, we have food. So we have a catered lunch. We have speakers to come in, and talk about Project Care. We have some caregivers that have received a $500 stipend from Project Care. Central Lina is another agency that provides. We've had caregivers that have received $3,500 stipends that you can use for whatever you need to use it for. And we've had some caregivers that have gotten that 3 times since we started. We started in January of 2022. We started out with 13 caregivers. This year, we are averaging 65 caregivers at our monthly meetups. And we focus on fun as well. That's part of our self-care. We're gonna have some fun. Because a lot of times caregivers, they're exhausted, they're depressed, or they feel guilty about having fun because they're so used to being on autopilot, being a caregiver, they don't take time for themselves. So we make sure, last month we did Name That Tune, and those caregivers were in there about to come to blows over Name That Tune. We had a thrift store fashion show where the caregivers went and shopped, and when they showed up, we had lights, we had a DJ, we had cameras. So I focus on the caregivers getting some time to do something fun. And you're probably thinking, okay, well, where's their loved one when a caregiver is out having all this fun at the meetup? Well, we got a grant from United Way this year. And so we partner with some home health care agencies, and we pay for that company to come in and sit with the loved one so that the caregiver can get out and have a good time. And we try to make sure it's the same person every time, because I don't know if you know, that that familiarity is what these people need. And at our monthly meetups, we have a caregiver store. So the caregivers can come and get incontinence supplies, they can come and we have we have wheelchairs there, we have walkers there, we have rinse-free body wash, anything that the caregiver needs that insurance doesn't cover, because depends can get expensive. So once a month, you can come get that. Speaking of self-care, mental health, we've partnered with another nonprofit here in town, and all of our caregivers, their family members, our board members, and our volunteers can get free mental health therapy services through this nonprofit here in town. They used us as their pilot program, and so our caregivers, they just let me know, hey, Venetia, I really want these therapy services. So we get them linked up with free therapy. We're partnered with Loaves and Fishes. Speaking of what you eat can affect your cognitive ability. So we've partnered with Loaves and Fishes. Not only do you get nutritious food, you also don't have to worry about cooking when you get those prepared meals to the house. We also have, I'm like you, my mind just went blank. Yeah, it's so much stuff. But it just all focuses on the caregivers for me. That's my heart, that's my passion, because I live that life. And I know, and my husband and I made that decision that we were gonna age in place, and we were gonna do whatever it took for us to keep mama home. And so I know when I speak to other caregivers, I know that language because I live that life. So I know what it is to be a caregiver for someone with Alzheimer's. And I also made the step to make sure that I'm serving the caregivers the way they need to be served. Yeah, I have that personal touch, that personal experience, but I also became a certified dementia practitioner. I became a community educator with the Alzheimer's Association, and also a training facilitator for Caregiver TLC, because I want to be able to come to the caregivers on the educational level as well as the personal level.
That is awesome. And again, the importance of knowing where to start and knowing what the services are that are available in your specific community. And working with Dementia Alliance of North Carolina, partnerships make the difference. I think I heard someone say earlier, we cannot do this alone. It cannot be done alone. One entity cannot provide the support services that caregivers are going to need. Statistically speaking, I think Dr. Rose kind of touched on some statistics, but here in North Carolina, there are 100 counties, and they are predicting in another 10 to 15 years that at least 90 of the counties are going to have individuals 65 and older. And we already know age is one risk factor, as well as, being African American puts us at a higher risk as well. So knowing, or partnering, I guess I should say, let me back up and say different, partnering with different entities within the community, persons like yourself that are volunteering, starting different agencies, is going to make a difference in the healthiness of us as a state. Listening at all the things that you were talking about, having worked in Eastern North Carolina, it would be awesome if we had someone that would lead like that and make those connections. In some places, the services are so piecemeal. This person is doing this person is doing that. But in more metropolitan areas like Charlotte and Raleigh and Durham, I'm not going to say it's not a challenge, but it's not as much as a challenge as we look at our more rural communities. One of the things that I found out when I was working Project Care in Eastern North Carolina, the majority of the counties in that area have populations of African Americans 50 plus. So there's more than 50% of African Americans in the eastern part of the state. And how we how we navigate services, or how we start services, or how we get services. I keep saying we because I'm from Eastern North Carolina. It's a challenge, and it's a lot different. I know when I was doing coach, and we had initiated the faith-based initiative. It was for the churches in Eastern North Carolina because again, just lack of services. And I have a very strong passion for the rural communities and the African American community because education, knowledge, understanding is so important to all of us.
I do. I was actually looking in here to, well, I think they've answered most of them, as Dr. Brown said earlier. I think one of the questions for me personally, because I'm, hearing from my mom, that I've had some friends ask is, how should we select a family or friend caregiver?
Yeah, one of you first. Oh, sorry. Because I've worked, like I said, I've worked directly with families for so long. It's just practically all I know. But it's not always a choice. Most of the time, when individuals become caregivers, of course, you have a spouse. But I have been in a situation where it was a great niece. It may be a child that had been living with mom or dad, and you're it. You're it because you're there. There may be 4 or 5 or 6 other siblings. They live down the street, they live across the street, but you're there in the house, and guess what? You're it. You're it. So I don't think I will say in 80% of the cases, it's not a choice. You're it.
If she has any question, she had to answer that one. We're going to, Ms. Bernie, what we'll do, we'll open up to the audience and see what they have, any questions. Any questions from the audience or even online viewers? Yes, ma'am. We'll bring the mic on 1 quick second. We got a feeling about it, Jen, so I know you do, but we got to make sure our sponsors are taken care of. 1 second. We'll be right there.
First of all, it's an honor to be here. I wish you was back then when I was taking care of my father. Back in the 90s, like you said, it was really kind of learning a little bit more about it. But anyway, good morning, everybody. I am a community health worker with H&M Health. So I want to know how, like if I get a client out in the community, how could I contact y'all and refer them to you?
So with Wisdom, honestly, Wisdom is a very easy name to remember. And for us, you can just Google Wisdom Senior Care Charlotte, and that will bring us right up. And honestly, if you look for home care agencies, that will also put us somewhere on that Google list. But for us specifically, it's Wisdom Senior Care. And if after the meeting, I can just give you one of my cards and we can connect with you together.
Excellent. Pastor, you have a question here? You said my pastor. You're not going to take my you're the pastor.
As a pastor, I get exposed to all kinds of issues. And I remember at least on 2 occasions over the years, the spouse who's living in the home, primary caregiver to the parent. The parent subsequently passes on. The other siblings now want part of the proceeds, and the caregiver felt that she should get more because she was involved in the life of the parent more than the other siblings. Are there any services to speak to those kinds of internal family domestic issues on the passing of spouse?
Oh my gosh. Again, gosh, the family dynamics of those type of situations are very hard to navigate. Legally, what I advise families to do, especially if they reach out to us in the early stages, is to start working on the legal aspects of what things need to look like, so you can avoid these kinds of situations. especially in the African American community. I get the stories sometimes and I get traumatized because it's like, this is what you're doing now, you know, and what's going on. So if I can get to them or they can get to me early enough, I go head on and care planning, plan ahead, what's going to happen. After the fact, that is, again, very hard to navigate. Maybe families can go and get counseling, or maybe they can still talk to, someone legally. But it's just a very hard place to navigate when you have someone that's like, well, I stayed here and I took care of mama, and you were, off, dancing in the fields with the lilies, or whatever. So that's a family, it's a squabble within a family, and it's just a very hard thing to navigate, to say, you guys have to go and maybe work it out legally. So I don't know if you guys have any input on that, because that's about the best that I can about it.
Plan ahead.
Yeah.
That would be my advice.
Okay. We're going to take one last question, and then we'll move to the next panel. Dr. Sexton?
Thank you very much. Appreciate all the advice you provided. Could you tell one other thing? When you're anticipating that family member continuing to decline with Alzheimer's disease, what do you recommend about going in and evaluating the home situation so that you can prepare for decreasing mobility and also making the home safe so that not only do they not hurt themselves, but they don't hurt anybody else? Thank you.
AARP,
which I volunteer with, has a program where they will go in and evaluate the home.
you can also, there are, I don't know about here in Charlotte, but where we are in Raleigh, we have a young lady that, her background is occupational therapy, and she has her own business where she will go in and do an evaluation of the home and have a discussion with the family. So maybe seek out services like that will be willing to go into the home and evaluate and provide advice on, mobility and safety of the home. But also, and I'm gonna say Google, but I try to tell families to be careful because there's so much information out there on the internet. But you can also go on the internet and do a Google search about home safety for individuals with Alzheimer's as well. But, AARP, which covers the whole state, I don't know who the representative here for this area, but you can Google that as well and maybe have someone come in and do an evaluation of the home.
Thanks so much. Ms. Burnett, you did a great job moderating the panel. Let's give them a hand. Ms. Vanessa Clark, thank you so very much. I have one announcement. Ms. Sabine, the pastor who is with Biogen, is watching us, and she sponsored making this all happen so she could feel happy. Can I do that for me? We will prepare for this last panel. Policy piece is the mission about dealing with your legislators and the local elected officials and related legislation that can help you with these different programs as we go forward with dementia and Alzheimer's, trying to make sure we're doing a better job in our community. Our last panel is the one that we've been talking about, and it's the Caregivers Journey panel. It will be moderated by Ms. Price. We have two members. One is already spoke, will be here with us again. Ms. Cheryl Strong, the caregiver for her husband, Vanessa Falk, we've met before, and we'll ask them to take it from there. Where is Ms. Price? I need to get her though. This is my boss this morning. We'll let them have. Would y'all give them a hand and make them feel welcome as well?
Good morning. Good morning. And I am just so filled with all this great information and helpful information for me and you. And I am Jeanette Price, member of the Health and Wellness here at Girl Heights, retired nurse, and works in this community, trying to educate and make the awareness of health issues. And we do gleaning, so I'm always trying to bring those produce back from the gardens that we glean and try to just encourage all of our community to live healthy and reach out for information on illness, on diseases, and share with others. So now we already know Ms. Vanessa, who's here, and dementia. So we're gonna have Cheryl Strong introduce herself, and she's gonna give her journey as she cares for her loving husband, Mr. Richard, that I love.
Thank you so much for having me. I don't know, I said, you want me to talk? But at any rate, I will try to give you a brief synopsis of my journey. How I can do it in 5 minutes, I do not know, because it has been a long journey. And I call it a strong journey. That's our last name. My husband's name is Richard Strong, I'm Charles Strong. Actually, my background is a physical therapist, but I did not, my clients were not in the cognitive field. I worked with stroke patients and hip replacements and things like that. So I didn't really have an idea of what was going on. However, my daughter is a speech and language pathologist who has been a great support to me and our family. And our son is an athletic director. That strong name. My husband was an athlete. He played basketball. My father was a football coach, so I like football. But I ended up with a basketball player. He trained both of our children so that they are proficient athletes. He was a coach. He coached them when they were little. He didn't know much about soccer, but our son became Mr. Soccer of Michigan in 1999. So he had a very strong impact on them. My husband was an industrial engineer for General Motors, which landed us in Michigan. And I said, you can't get us anywhere else other than Michigan? Oh, it was so cold. Oh my goodness. But at any rate, we stayed there 40 years until we moved here. We moved here, we had always talked about moving south because he's from Mississippi. But my mother was here. I am an only child. What else was I going to do but move to Charlotte to take care of her? My mother also had dementia. So I had my mother and my husband. His story is quite lengthy. I saw subtle changes in him, but it didn't connect. He used to travel for General Motors, and he didn't like it, but he did it. And I don't know why, when I had a car accident, he was in Texas, and I remember 1997, it was the day that Princess Diana died, and I said, oh my gosh, but anyway, he wasn't there. I had to take care of myself, and I had friends to take care of me. But I still saw subtle signs in him. He told me, he says, he used to do the taxes. And he says, I want you to do the taxes. I said, what? I didn't know anything about doing taxes. So I said, okay. So my daughter said, I'll just do TurboTax. I got good at TurboTax. So, and I still didn't catch on to anything. So as the years went on, he was forgetting things and things that I thought he should remember. And I told him he always wanted to converse. When we were dating, he didn't talk much, but when we got married, I said, who is this? But at any rate, he would say, you know who I'm talking about, you know so-and-so and so-and-so. And I said, you know what? Being married to you is like playing charades. I said, I have to think about how to bring out what you're trying to tell me. But that was a sign. So I said, okay, I'm going to the doctor with you. Because he was just having so many, getting lost, and things just weren't as I thought they should be. And sure enough, the doctor did give him a cognitive test, and it showed that he had some cognitive problems. And I still didn't know what to do, and he was doing fine. I mean, he went to church, he was a deacon, Sunday school teacher. He went to church faithfully in the men's chorus, there all the time. He always had his weekly trip to Walmart and to the grocery store. And that's what he did. And I said, okay. But at that time, he was placed on Namenda, which the doctor said it will not cure it, but it will help to slow the process. And I said, well, okay. And he still was doing pretty good. Now, he always worked in the church, and he was a deacon twice, and we moved a church, and they didn't automatically make you a deacon just because you were a deacon before. So the church that we ended up in did see his value, and he is a valuable soul. He, at 16, was a Sunday school teacher and the superintendent of his Sunday school for his church. And so I said, oh my, I said, and I was seeing more and more things that he couldn't remember. And I said, oh goodness, you hear about this test that they have to take, and they have to answer all these questions. I said, is he going to be able to do it? So the day that they were to be ordained or whatever, I went to church early. I sat in the front. I just prayed and prayed that he would be able to answer it and he would make it through. And he did. I'm going to tell you, God has been with us. Without God, I couldn't be here. I don't know how I'm holding up now, but he has been with me. So then I saw subtle things happening even as he was a deacon. They have a ritual where this side you line up and you line up over there. One pass out the tray for the elements, and I said, oh Lord, please let him go in the bag, please go in the bag, because he wouldn't know where to go. And I could see it. I don't know if anybody else could see it, but at that time I didn't really share to anyone what was going on with him, because he was really functional. So he worked for General Motors for 29 years, and I think he may have been having some problems with the work there, but he didn't say anything to me. But he would bring home all his work, and his work was always abstract to me. I didn't know what it was. I said, I can't deal with that. I said, I do bones and muscles. I can't do numbers. And but it was just an extreme amount of work that they placed on him. But at any rate, he left at 29 years, and we said, well, what are you going to do? You can't stay home. You're not that kind of person. He's a very active person. He was the person in the neighborhood who would take care of the yard. He was the one that cut grass twice a week, not once a week, twice a week, because it had to be immaculate. And so I said, well, what about a substitute teacher? So he did that. He was outstanding with it. I mean, the children's programs, he got it all together. Now, the lesson plans, that's another issue. I had to do that. But at any rate, he still worked with, and then the church had a church school, and they asked him to come and work there, and he did that. So I retired first, and he still wanted to work. I said, okay, and he was still able to go to church and function. But in 2017, we moved to North Carolina to take care of my mother. He didn't really want to come. And I said, well, we always talked about moving south, but I think south to him meant Mississippi, but south to me did not mean Mississippi. And so at any rate, we moved here, and that is not always the best option for a person that has Alzheimer's and dementia, the change of location. And I said, oh, but I wasn't aware of that, but I knew I had to come and take care of my mother. And I began to see, in 2017, I began to see mood changes in him, agitation, sleepless nights. He couldn't really dress himself. He could dress himself, but it would take 2 hours for him to dress and it would be all wrong. And it just got to be something that was just on my mind all the time. I had to pay attention to what he was doing and help, and he was driving at that time, but he never was good at directions. So moving to North Carolina, that made it worse because he didn't know how to get to places. But I thought I selected an area where you just had to go up the street and turn right and you were at the store. That didn't work. So he always wanted to drive, and I would say, okay, turn left. All right, turn right, no, go that way. And then I said, I said, let me drive, I will get there quicker. And eventually, he lost his keys. And that was a blessing. Am I doing okay? Can you hear me? Oh, my time. I told you I couldn't do this in 5 minutes. I'm almost through. So I had both my husband and my mother, but he wasn't that bad, and my mother wasn't that bad, but she's one of those spicy ones too. And I must say that her church family, Mr. Obi, I'm telling you, he would send the bulletin to her every week and a card. And the Women's Association would come by, bring things and send cards. They were just awesome. And I tried to prepare do things for my husband and myself. There was a support group around the corner. But I'd say he has separation anxiety because he does not like for me to go anywhere. And if I am gone, he said, where's my wife? Where's my wife? Where's my wife? Oh, but anyway, so I had that support group. And I couldn't go because he was anxious and I couldn't leave him home at night alone. Then I applied for Mecklenburg County. I had a social worker. I think I applied for the meals that come to the house, and they also give you aides that will come and help with care of your loved one. It took a year, but I have 20 hours of care that I have from the county. In 2021, he contracted COVID. I took him to the emergency room. I said, you all are gonna have to keep him. I said, I can't take him home. You have to keep him. Well, ma'am, he doesn't have pneumonia, so you have to take him. I said, oh my gosh. So anyway, my son, he is a jewel. Anything going wrong, he dropped what he does. He comes from DC, he drives here 6 hours and he takes care of us. Seemingly he's always here when his dad is sick, but at any rate, the next day he said something is wrong. We took him to the emergency room. I parked the car, he took his dad in, and I couldn't find him. I said, well, where? They had already taken him back. I said, and the room was just full of people. I said, how did he get him in the back that quickly? But anyway, and from there, before that time, I was on a virtual support group, which was good because I could do that and he could be at home. And during that virtual support group, someone mentioned Wisdom Senior Care. And I said, oh, and when I was in the hospital with him, it was a mess. And then I called Vanessa. And I said, oh my gosh, it was the answer to my prayers. The only problem was I needed more hours than I could pay for. But at any rate, we have worked it out, and it's just, she has, and her group are just so dear to me. And I want to point out a couple more things about my husband. There's not much that he remembers, but he remembers his wallet. He has to have his wallet. And his family would send money for birthdays and da. I said, you gotta stop sending money. I said, he's losing it and he doesn't need it. So I put something that looks like money in his wallet. And I also, someone suggested a AirTag, an Apple AirTag, because he was, I didn't tell you about how the neighbors would bring him home because he'd be in their yard. And I go, oh, and he was, the last time the man brought him home, he was looking at me, you're not taking care of this man. I said, I was just getting ready to come get him. I just tracked him all that time. But anyway, he stopped doing that. But at any rate, I don't know, and he sundowns. If you know what sundowning is, it's off at 4 o'clock. It's going downhill. So now I'm at a stage where I'm trying to see if I get very little sleep, and I love sleep. So we're trying to work through that. But I am so thankful for my family, my friends, my caregivers. Without them, I don't know what I would do. My daughter is my encourager. My son is my medical support, and in the hospital he has him kicking stuff and making him very mobile. He is awesome with his dad. It's just wonderful. But this journey, I always said I had to live up to my last name. It's strong for a reason, but I'm getting weak. But at any rate, I hope I haven't gone over too much. Not too much. All right, but thank you for listening. I have more to tell if anybody else.
We're gonna do like we did over. Call on yourself. Please call her. Ms. Price, we'll get 2 questions for the panel, and then we'll go to Q&A with the audience.
Okay, I think, did you experience a time when your loved one felt less independent and in control of their life? You about told everything. But you want, it hurt the answer? Yeah. Okay. When your loved ones felt less independent and in control of their life?
Oh, yes, when we got towards the middle to late stages, you mentioned not being able to dress yourself, and wanting that independence. I remember, and I have a picture on my phone of Mama. We were getting ready one day to take her to the adult daycare, and she was adamant she was gonna dress herself. And I'm like, we gotta go, get dressed. I know what I'm doing. So she has her clothes on, she's putting her socks on. I said, do you remember how to put your socks on? Yes, I remember how to put my socks on. I leave out, I come back in. Mama has the sock, trying to pull it on her head, and one of them is sitting on the other side of the head, but she was determined she was going to dress herself that day. So, that dependence, that being in control, and just still letting them do what they can do until they can't do it anymore. So, we just let her do what she could do. Some days her shirt was on the wrong side out. She might have had both socks on one foot, but we were alive, and we made it work. Yeah.
My question is,
Vanessa, what do you find challenging as a caregiver?
For me, when I worked in dialysis, it was getting too connected with people, because you're ultimately, inevitably, you knew that you were going to lose them. My struggle now is I am too connected to them, so part of the reason why I stayed to work on this panel is because I actually work as a caregiver in my agency. I don't just send people, typically at least the first shift with clients, I will do myself so that I can identify the correct caregiver for that client. And then I end up with clients like Mr. Strong, who is now a part of my family. So that to me it has been a struggle as a caregiver, but with my family, my great-grandmother is living with dementia right now, and I have a lot of patience because this is my industry, this is what I do. I'm also a certified dementia practitioner. But listening to her, my great-grandmother, and my grandmother argue because my grandmother is her caregiver, and I'm trying to insinuate coping, I'm like, your coping skills and suggestions, and my grandma's like, girl, if you don't get on my face, I'm just trying to help. So, I think it's partially as a family caregiver, it's hard because I have the knowledge, but I still have to, she's my elder, so I'm gonna watch my mouth and just keep my opinions to myself. But I think just watching your loved one decline and seeing them not be able to do the things that they want to do and that they were able to do is probably one of the hardest things about being a caregiver.
Ms. Franklin, take a question from the audience. Dr. Sanders.
Still morning. Good morning.
Morning.
I'm very intrigued by the journey of caregiving, but as a primary care physician, one of the things that you have to do is find time for your own health care. How do you do that?
Well,
When my caregivers are taking care of my husband, I have to get my toes done. And I go to the salon for my therapy. I said, oh, I'm here for my therapy, give me my therapy. So I get my hair done. And we go to Albemarle Road Recreation Center to exercise. Now, but he doesn't follow the instructor. But it's more for me, I guess. And then now I would go 2 times a week, but now I only let him go once. They always say, well, where is your house? I said, this is my day. But yeah, one of the caregivers too, I showed them where there was a trail around the pond that she could walk with him, and he loves that. And while I'm crocheting and I try to get it in.
Thank you. One last question from the audience or online. Yes, ma'am, on the side here. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am, you stand up there.
Has anyone had any issues with the person with the Alzheimer's or dementia problem accepting the fact that that is a condition that they have? Because I see it as being difficult to start the conversation about legal issues and inviting other people into your home or getting them to accept being in situations where other people are part of their lives if they don't acknowledge themselves that they have dementia or Alzheimer's. So how is that addressed?
Thank you for asking that, ma'am. I have the same situation.
So I know with my mom, we knew before her official diagnosis that there was something going on. And she even admitted that there was something going on. But even after official diagnosis, she was still good at masking it. You could carry on a conversation with her for about 5 or 10 minutes maybe, and then the conversation would start veering. So she knew there was something wrong. We knew there was something wrong.
but then having that conversation with people surrounding us so they know how to deal with or how not to deal with and what to expect and what not to expect from someone. So I think with her, she knew there was something going on, and we would tell people not to diminish the fact that she had Alzheimer's or to make her feel any type of way, because some people still have that stigma and still have that they don't know how to approach that person or how to deal with that person. But we let people know so we could then educate them about the disease and what to expect and what not to expect, if that answers the question.
That help you, man, as well? That's your question, too. Yeah, second part, we'll take the second part.
Well, the person herself will not thank you, and good morning. The person herself will not accept the fact that something is wrong, even though she can no longer drive to places or get to places. Remember how to go to places where she had gone for 20 years and 30 years. There's nothing wrong with my memory. I don't need a checkup from a doctor or anything like that. It's left my family at a loss for how to proceed.
I think from a family caregiver standpoint with my great-grandmother, we do kind of have that issue. She's not accepting of what we can all tell is going on. If you can get to the point where you can have a separate conversation with a provider and discuss what you see with the provider, and then, I mean, it's unfortunate, but sometimes you do get to the point where you have to kind of be a little manipulative in the situation when you know that it's for the person's best. Have a separate conversation with the provider and then set her up with a normal doctor's appointment. They'll be able to do some things, as Dr. Rose had mentioned, to ask questions and basically help determine a diagnosis. And sometimes hearing it from someone else and not the family makes a big difference. And also, if you can bring in services for things that maybe she will agree to, with the understanding with who's doing those services that, hey, we know she's having some memory issues, but I'm gonna ask that you come in and maybe do some light housekeeping or do some things that she would actually enjoy doing, not under the premise of it's for memory care. I think maybe somebody can come and sit with you to do something. Maybe she likes playing cards or crocheting or doing something like that. Bringing someone in to help her do something that she either needs assistance with or enjoys doing, and not making it about that diagnosis so much, so that you're still getting some assistance and getting some relief for your family. And then slowly but surely, they come around. It takes some time. I have clients that it's taken a year for them to kind of come around to needing it, but you want to put something in place before it turns into an emergency situation. So hopefully that helps.
Thank you, that's very helpful.
Excellent. Let's give this panel a round of applause. Ms. Price, thank you again for moderating. I'm going to ask all our speakers if they would come to the stage as I transfer the power back to Ms. Brown and to the pastor. If I can get all the speakers to the stage right quickly for a summation. All our speakers. Dr. Martin. And as I take my seat, if you could stand, please, I'm going to ask you for a 1 minute summation. This is just like a sound bite now. Like we're on TV and, they say we're going from one part of the news to the weather. It's a sound bite. All right, so I'll get all the speakers back up. On behalf of HEAL and its board of directors, we'd like to thank the pastor and the church for hosting us today, and our sponsor, Biogen, welcomes the opportunity to come into our community to talk about diversity and health and those things that affect the African American community. Ms. Brown, we're going to turn over to you, and then you turn over to the pastor as we bless the food. Don't forget about our surveys, and again, on behalf of HEAL and Biogen, thank you for being patient with us this morning. We hope that you enjoyed it as we go forward in the Word of God. Thank you.
so much, Stan, and we are going to transition right into your 1-minute final call to action.
Okay. Well, once again, good morning, good afternoon, thank you. I think as an academic mission, as the leader of an academic unit, I'm always trying to bring together pieces to work together as a cohesive unit. And I think what has been brought to you today is a wealth of information, from AARP to finding funds from the United Way to a family who started a foundation to help caregivers. I think what I would call the clarion call of action is that this institution here, along with the other churches who are present, reach out and start a caregiver supporting network and collect all this information and put it in one place so that at least you have a place to start. You have familiar faces that you can go to help with this. And I know this panel is focused on Alzheimer's and dementia, but caregiver support is across the board. It could be cancer, it could be others. And they're all the similar tasks that need to be taken care of for the caregiver. So that would be my clarion call to action, is that I think someone said, we're here today, what do we do tomorrow, what do we do going forward? Take the first steps to begin to build this knowledge base, put it together where it's open to the community, where people can find it and have someone continue to organize it, to continue to keep it up to date, so that caregivers and the families who need that support will always have it and always have a place to go find it.
I agree with all you said. Of course, as a caregiver, friends and your church families, those are the ones that are closest to you and they know your stories. Don't forget, just make sure that you give them a call, a card, or even a little meal helps too, because I know I am so tired of cooking that, and he's on a medication that increases his appetite, and I have to try to keep up with that. But anything you can do.
Don't forget the caregivers and the patient also.
Good morning again as well. My call to action would be to continue doing things like this. One thing that I know, like I said, working with so many counties here, is that for the African American community, the church is the foundation of everything that we do and what we believe. And if the church begins to start having and continue to have this conversation about services and just about the disease and being, I would hate to say comfortable, but recognizing it, and it is strong in our community, I think that will help to be educated to reach services ahead of time. Don't be afraid to ask for services. Other cultures will be 2 days into the diagnosis and, bringing in huge income and I paid it to the government, but I should have this, that, and the other. Whereas in my experience, African American families tend to wait, 10, 15 years into the diagnosis. And when you're that deep into it, services are not always at their best. But if you start seeking services early on, you could get more support and learn strategies and tips on how to maintain and to self-care.
And to piggyback on you about resources, definitely reach out to, you mentioned the Council on Aging, Mecklenburg County, Department of Social Services, they're just one call. Reach out to them, continue having events like this. And somebody, I think it was the pastor or someone mentioned earlier, don't just keep what you learn here, go out and talk to the people at the senior center or Parks and Rec or your next door neighbor or your family. At family reunions, have these conversations at your family reunions, but don't just keep what you know or what you learn to yourself. You gotta spread the word, because that's the only way that we're gonna be able to make a change.
I think my call to action will be prepare. Get ready early. You want to live a long life. We all pray that that's what we're able to do, to live a long, strong, and healthy life. But in order to do that, we do have to accept the fact that aging comes along with that. And as Dr. Rose mentioned, that's one of those things that we can't do anything about, and we want that to be a problem that we have, aging. So setting the financial things in place, having the conversations so that it doesn't have to happen that someone dies where you're having these certain conversations. Let's do them more often with our families. Also cherish your elders, appreciate them, gain that wisdom from them. And the closer you are to them, the easier it is to tell when something's wrong. If you're not with them, if you're not present with them, then if only on holidays is when you see them, there's things that you can catch a lot sooner if you're spending time with them. So spend time with your elders, spend time with your family, and prepare for the life that you plan to live.
Let's keep talking, let's keep having this conversation. It doesn't end here. We've heard so much useful information today, and I want us to feel empowered with it, but also knowing that there is still a lot that's being researched right now. We don't have a cure, but there are treatments that are being developed to really try to address this disease. And there are things that we can even do now for ourselves in preserving as much of the cognition as possible, and even continuing to for those who have even been diagnosed with dementia already, there are many different interventions that can be done to really help them feel more valuable and give them as much of this desire for autonomy and self-determination back. So let's keep that in mind and continue the conversation moving forward. Thank you all.
Thank you. I think my mic is on.
Time out.
Thank you. Thank you to our panelists. I think that we all can walk away today saying that we feel educated, we feel aware, and we know that we have to support one another in our communities and outside of our communities to help come against this illness. We just want to also say, and I think that you all said it perfectly, that we've already started a network. We've already started to support here at Girl Heights Presbyterian as well as the other churches that are represented here. So let's go out. Let's make sure that as we collect this information that we're serving as a resource hub for our communities and for other African American communities around the Charlotte area. I'd like to remind you to please complete your route book, which is in your packets that you have, and our volunteers and field staff will come around and pick up both surveys from you. We also like to bring up Pastor Tuttle, who is going to provide thanks and also provide a blessing over our meal and a covering over us before we leave. Thank you so much for your participation, and we also want to remind you about next week's session on diversity in clinical trials and brain health. That will be on Saturday, October 28th from 10 a.m. to 12:30 p.m.
Oh God, but to us. Thank you. Wasn't this great? Let's give God some praise for this. Okay, let's all stand up. Let's all stand up. And let's give God some praise for the wonderful panel. Thank you. So thank you to the churches who are here today. Thank you for coming and sharing. And for the Girl Heights Presbyterian Church Health Ministry, that we do this all the time. And so this is important to us. Our health is critical to our survival. Amen? Amen. So thank you, panel. And thank you, organizers, for making this happen for us today. It's been wonderful. And the drummers. Oh, yes, the drummers. We need the drummers. Yes. Oh, yes. We're about to have a meal. Let's ask God to give us some health from it. Almighty God, the food that we're about to eat, we did not create, but came from the bounty of the earth, which should nurture with nutrients from the soil, the rain, and the sun. This food will now nourish our bodies and give us strength. And may we have the wisdom to use our strength and our health to serve you and others all of our days. Thank you, Lord, for this meal. And thank you, pray for the fellowship of the sharing and giving it and consuming it. In Jesus' name we pray and ask. And we all say, Amen. Go outside and go downstairs to the social hall, fellowship hall. We'll have the meal downstairs for you. Please go downstairs, outside and walk around to the lower level. Thank you.